Nearly half a century ago, Oracle transformed how the world managed data. More than a decade ago, we reimagined how business works in the cloud. And now, as AI reshapes how we operate, compete, and innovate, Oracle is once again leading the way. That data, it's now your AI fuel. That cloud, it now trains and runs the world's most powerful AI models. And those models, they power the Gen AI built into your business processes and the AI agents that automate it all. Oracle brings AI to every corner of your business so you can imagine beyond the boundaries of what's possible. Whether it's leveraging AI to increase productivity, make decisions faster, and save money, using AI-powered forecasting to secure and maintain a power grid for millions of customers, training AI models to make the world's most powerful particle accelerator run faster and more efficiently, or harnessing AI vector search to tackle antibiotic resistance. We help you stay ahead because Oracle was built for the era of AI, so we can build the future of AI for you.
Please welcome to the stage, Rondi Ng.
Thank you and welcome. Now, over the last couple of years, in the same event, we've shared a lot about our vision and strategy for finance and FP&A with AI, what we have been innovating with AI, all the capabilities to help you be more efficient with touchless operations, having a business visibility with predictive insights, and also how actually you can collaborate better with connected actions between finance, FP&A, and the rest of the stakeholders in your business. Now, with generative AI and agentic AI over the past couple of years, the speed of realizing that vision has never been faster. Today, I'm going to share with you some very exciting stuff. We're going to take it to the next level. We're going to share with you the next evolution of this journey. Now, specifically, we're going to show you and demo to you a lot of great AI capabilities that are around agentic. We're going to show you how we're going to apply agentic AI to automate even further organization, give you a completely different experience across many of the core finance and EPM functions. And I'm also going to show you how our customers on Fusion are uniquely positioned to take advantage of all these new capabilities now and going forward. Now, what can AI really bring to the finance organization to further all of the improvements that we talked about before? Let's start with financial operations. Now, a lot of times in financial operations, it's all about driving efficiency. Now, many of our customers who are on Fusion for a little while have already actually gotten a lot of operational efficiency by standardizing on the business processes and operating very successfully on the Fusion platform. Now, generative AI and agentic AI is going to take you to the next level. Now, first, a lot of our transactional activities, accounting activities today that are based on static workflows or sometimes manual activities are going to be superseded by autonomous agentic AI workflows, where actually the AI workflows are going to be able to handle very complex situations and conditions autonomously, but at the same time, if it needs human intervention, it's going to guide you to the context of kind of these different conditions, and you'll be able to use natural language to understand what's going on and be able to actually resolve the issues with just a few clicks or kind of basically natural language commands to the system. Very different than ever before, all without complex IT, not the kind of you need a lot of reports or inquiries or dashboards to carry out the tasks. Now, at the same time, a lot of the financial operations complexity is around transacting with your trading partners, whether it's your customers or suppliers or the banks, where you're dealing with a lot of complex transactional activities, complex IT, to integrate them in an automated manner, or sometimes kind of use your service center to manually key them in. All of these, again, is going to be replaced by agentic experiences where kind of the agents are going to be able to adapt to the various different sources, formats, channels, languages, and will be able to capture all these things into the system faithfully, but also at the same time doing it in a compliant and controlled manner. Now, third, agentic operations. One of the key benefits of that is kind of to make these agentic operations more agile. So if you're actually dealing with business model changes, organization changes, or kind of like if you're expanding into a new countries and operations, or you're dealing with an expanded trading partner network, because of the agentic approach, you are actually going to be able to activate your operational model a lot quicker than ever before. Now, what about FP&A? When you actually look at FP&A, the key objective there is to be able to support the lines of businesses as a strategic partner. But to be able to do that, a key ingredient is you need to have rich, contextual, high-quality, real-time data. Now, with all the automation that I talked about in financial operations, together with kind of like an integrated platform between your operations and your analytics and FP&A, you're going to be able to achieve not just understanding with the visibility into all of kind of the things going on real time, not at just the summary level, but you actually be able to get down to very specific details. The agents are going to monitor the different conditions for you and alert you when such conditions actually occur. But at the same time, you'll be able to arm with kind of this data and basically have predictive models based on the machine learning capabilities to predict where actually your business is going, supplementing a lot of the human forecasts that you have, so you can actually understand contextually whether actually you need to course correct or take advantage of an opportunities. Now, with all that business insights, the important thing is you'll be able to connect with the key business stakeholders in the other organizations to make sure that you address those opportunities or issues very timely. Now, Oracle has been innovating with AI for a number of years. Starting with a few years ago, we've spent a lot of time using machine learning capabilities in the EPM, predictive planning. One popular capability that we have rolled out, and quite a few customers have adopted that, is around predictive cash forecasting. Over to the last couple of years, we use a lot of generative AI capabilities to create rich text, to support narrative reporting, or kind of generating text around insights. Last year, I talked about AI agents. We apply AI agents on various different activities. Now, for this year, the investment that we have on AI has not only actually sped up a lot, but also we actually take it a lot more holistically. When we actually look at our approach, our focus is to leverage a full agentic experience across many of the core finance and EPM functions, where we really are looking fundamentally what actually the function is going to do and use agentic to completely transform the user experience in those functions. And in some cases, completely changing the operating model and even the definition of those functions. We are going to share with you 4 separate use cases and examples, and we're also going to demo to you what actually those experiences are going to be like. Now, let's start with shared service center operations today. For example, in accounts payables, where actually you are dealing with generally a lot of invoices coming from your suppliers. You have to record them, and then you actually also want to make sure that they are recorded in a compliant and controlled manner, both internally for your internal recording and policies, as well as externally for tax and for other regulations. And then at the end of the day, you want to be able to pay them timely, your suppliers timely, okay? Now, when you actually look at the problems that they are facing today, you are dealing with all sorts of different suppliers. Some of the suppliers that you do a lot of businesses with, they're sending you a lot of invoices in high volume. For example, like a direct procurement with a supplier where you need to integrate all these supply invoices electronically, many times in XML or kind of other electronic formats. And it may be actually also different depending on the suppliers and the countries that you operate in. Quite a lot of IT complexity that you have to deploy with integration fabric, APIs, or other services. Versus kind of some of the suppliers that you may only deal with once in a while, okay? They may be just sending you a simple image of the invoice and attach it to a PDF file in an email and then send it to you. And people use OCR or manual actually entry to get all of the data into the system. Now, in addition to that, that's only half the problem. When you actually get these invoices in, you also want to make sure that they're recorded correctly. What about kind of there's some anomalies? Maybe a supplier that you really deal with kind of maybe questionable. You want to make sure that kind of they are legit suppliers. Or maybe they're duplicates. Maybe kind of the amount is actually extremely large compared with what you typically would do with that particular supplier. There may be mistakes or there may be frauds and so on. Sometimes kind of complexity around tax, okay? So maybe the tax is not recorded with the right rate, so kind of you actually want to record the use tax, assess tax, and so on and so forth. One of the other problems that actually people constantly deal with in shared service centers is kind of they want to codify the accounts. Kind of want to make sure that the invoices are charged correctly to the right cost centers, for example. Okay? Many of these problems are compliance and control issues. Today, if you actually configure the system, you can actually create a lot of rules to deal with that. But many times, we have seen is there are lots of people in the shared service center that are using desktop menus to record these things. Now, all of these are going to be supported by an agentic approach. Last year, we talked about a document I/O agent to take care of the first problem, to take the invoices from the various different sources and formats into the system. This year, we have created an entire agentic payables experience. Let's take a look at the demo.
This is a demo of Payable Agent leveraging Document I/O Agent in Oracle Fusion Cloud ERP. It shows how the Payable Agent works with accounts payable to help automate invoice processing, no matter what document formats, delivery mechanisms, or languages suppliers use. Suppliers or their systems simply submit invoices to an address like an email or a URL endpoint. The Payables agent works with large language models to ingest, classify, and analyze documents to determine how to best process them. There are no complex IT projects needed to manage thousands of supplier profiles, complex file formats, integrations, or to change technology standards. All file types are handled by the Payables agent with zero setup required, like Excel and CSV files, without asking suppliers to use special templates. PDF documents and images that usually require people to review and rekey, popular e-invoicing formats like XML and JSON, the Payable agent processes new formats and trading partners automatically. Moving on, we see the Payables agent go to work to prepare an invoice for payment and accounting. It relies on a series of worker agents throughout the process. The Doc.io agent captures invoice data with no manual entry errors. The Compliance and Control agent checks for red flags such as unusually large invoice amounts, unexpected invoice currency, and shared bank account numbers. The Compliance agent provides thorough review, augmenting the efforts of specialists and replacing costly custom systems designed to inspect payments. The Tax Partner agent verifies that the tax was charged correctly. The Compliance and Control agent applies accounting rules. It looks at related documents like purchase order and project references to generate accounting coding and split the expense based on rules and historical allocations. It notes PO details like 60% of the items destined for a different office. Using this context, it automatically splits the allocation 60-40. Adding account codification and distribution based on the transaction's context automates and simplifies manual tasks of AP staff. The agent can route the invoice for approvals based on policy like high dollar amounts. This is just one of the ways we're using AI to help you address complexity, onboarding new suppliers and getting their invoices into an accounts payable, with no human interaction required. Payables Agent can help manage the work in shared service centers by automating repetitive activities, streamlining invoice processing, and letting payables administrators focus on important initiatives like control and compliance. The Payables Agent gives better visibility into liability, improves trading partner relationships, and opens up opportunities for finance teams to focus on adding more value to the business.
So what you have seen is essentially an intentional slowdown of what's actually happening behind the scene. In reality, this is a light-out process where you don't have users monitor every single step. The demo would be pretty boring if we actually just show you a black screen and everything is happening automatically. So Doc.io, where actually all the invoices are ingested from various different formats. We're using large language models to actually bring that in faithfully without you actually having to tinker with the technology and all of the APIs. It's much easier to manage. It's much more adaptive. If you have new suppliers coming on board, you'll be able to handle the activation as well as adapting the formats in a very, very simple manner. Compliance and control, it completes the entire process. So hopefully if this is actually deployed correctly, we're going to actually significantly reduce the amount of payable staffing on all those mundane activities and shift them to some other value-added work. I'm going to show you a little bit later on the payment side. All right, so let's look at another example, accounting. When you look at the accounting stuff, every single day when they come into work, usually what they actually do is they have to actually look at different account activities, account balances movements. And depending on what actually their role as well as the time in the period, these activities coming into the general ledger may create anomalies they need to track. And they need to be able to discover those conditions. They have to be able to explain these conditions. What they're relying on is a bunch of reports or inquiries or dashboards. Sometimes they have to extract the data, put in Excel, run macros. And then at the end of the day, when they discover it, sometimes they have to actually work with another division, another operation to understand what's going on. And then at the end of the day, they may actually choose to adjust the balances with some adjustment journal entries, or maybe they will actually inform the other divisions like FP&A, audit, reconciliation about what actually happened. Now, what you are going to see is an agentic general ledger experience, which actually is going to change the way how actually this is going to work altogether. Now with that, I'd like to actually introduce our head user of Oracle Internal Finance, Alex San Juan, and Alex is going to show you how the ledger agent experience is going to be like. Please welcome Alex.
Thank you, Ron. Hi, everybody. My name is Alex San Juan. I'm responsible for the finance systems, reporting to the Chief Accounting Officer at Oracle, Maria Smith. And it's my privilege to actually demo this. So what you're seeing right now are some cards that are available there for me based on some areas of concerns that maybe I have. And actually, I'm going to create one here and show you what these. So right now, these are the ones I've already created. And here are one that I'm going to create for you. And you can see below, there's some canned ones. Oops, let me just go down here. So I could actually use the ones that actually are available there, but I'm gonna actually request one to look at marketing. Oops, let me click on that. And I have the ability to put the timing and also, it's using actually natural language, and then it's basically changing that to take into account the different hierarchies that are available. So it takes a lot of the ambiguity out of what I've actually said and looks at what those hierarchies that are available, and I get to select which one I want to use. So I'm actually going to do the primary, and I can actually do the frequency and the time span and the priority. So I'm going to create this prompt.
So just for context, Alex, what you're showing in there is, hey, you as an accountant coming to work, there are certain conditions that I would like to monitor. Absolutely. I want to actually use, not with IT, just natural language about, hey, here's basically what I want to track. Here's the number of days or which times of the period that I want to track this for. If it's over a certain threshold, let me know. Now, what actually Alex just showed also actually translates to the system concepts to make sure that you have the right values in your chart of accounts, the right hierarchies to use, all of kind of the right currency and so on. It disambiguates what your natural language instruction to actually something very precise in the system. So there's no hallucination involved in there.
Yep. Absolutely. So let me go back to the inbox. And you can see, oh, I have a new alert and there's a new requirement. So I'm actually going to drill down into some of these items that I'm actually watching for. And obviously here it says that there's an expense item with the data center in Austin. So I'm going to click on this.
So that's based on some conditions that you have set up previously.
Yep.
And when the actually conditions hit, the system is not just monitoring, alerting you that it actually happened, but it's also providing you context about what might have caused that particular conditions to trigger, and then let you know to continue to explore that.
Absolutely. And so now I want to actually drill into this cost center here and find out what's contributing. So I can see right there the expansion is really what the area that I need to focus in. So I'm actually going to look at the invoices that are in there. And now what it does is actually providing me some information about the invoices as well as the PO. I've noticed here that it also has some information about the summary and the approval comments, but I noticed that the 104 and the 93 don't equal the PO amount. And I also noticed over in the notes section, it says that there's a delay in fulfillment. So I need to find out a little bit more information about that fulfillment. And so what it's doing right now, it's actually pulled up the purchase orders for me, and I'm able to hover over and see the information concerning the PO. And I noticed, oops, let me go back. My glasses are not that good here, but I got 1,700 of these that haven't actually come, and that they're going to be coming in the next 2 weeks. And so let me dig in a little bit more into this. Oh, actually, I can create an accrual for this. So what it is, there's a timing difference between this. So what I'm going to do is I want to send an accrual, but I also want to make sure that I reverse it before the fulfillment comes in, okay, because I don't want it to be double counted. So it allows me to put that date in there, and I could modify it if I want. And what's nice here is the system's asking me, do I want to make a corrective action here? And I do. And so now it has actually submitted an accrual here, and I'm doing this all from this location. I don't need to have any reports. I don't need to have IT help me. I don't need to go and call someone to find out this information. It's something I can readily get. Right? So you can see that this particular one has been triggered and it's been completed. So I'm actually going to go over here and look at RPO, which is remaining performance obligations, a big topic these days. And we're going to look at our billing versus our forecasting here. We notice that it exceeds. So I'm trying to figure out why.
So just for context, RPO is a remaining performance obligation. Like, for example, a company like Oracle, we actually sign customer deals to provide AI services for customers. But before we can recognize that as revenue, we have to actually make sure that the services is available, is consumed, so it's metered in our subscription management system all the way flowing through our revenue management as deferred revenue. So as kind of these activities occur, basically the information is going to trigger and flow through the general ledger. And what Alex is trying to do is to understand why that particular RPO is moving in a pace that's different from expected. Okay, that's the context, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, deferred revenue typically is that we receive the payment and we have an obligation to the customer, and we put this on our balance sheet until we provide the services or products out there. And obviously, we really watch that very closely. So let me get into a little bit more of the information here concerning the customers that are contributing to this. And I can see here that Mitten Industries is actually responsible for 89% of the increase. So let me dig into understanding this a little bit better with respects to a graph showing my forecast versus the billing. I want to see what's going on here. And I can see my actuals against forecast. My actuals are higher than my forecast for this billing. And you'll say, well, why is that? And I'm trying to understand. So it sounds like what happens, or I suspect, is that the customer is actually paying early for stuff, and now we're obligated to give them stuff, but the forecast, it wasn't in there. So I need to tell FP&A that their forecast is not correct, okay? So let me And now what I'm going to do is put a report together so I can send to the FP&A so that they can look at this and maybe adjust their forecast based on what is actually coming through on our billings. So it asked me if I want to send a message. And just so you know, this is very, very helpful because a lot of times we want to have an audit trail for our auditors, so we can put that out there. Also, I can put this in the system, and I don't need to worry about if we come back to this later on when we do our OpEx review, we can actually use this information. So put there yes. And the message has been sent. And so I can't wait to get this, and somehow if I can talk Randy, if we can get this earlier, that would be fantastic, but this would really change how we operate and reduce the reliance on reporting, as well as a lot of the customizations that we ask or work that we ask our IT department to do.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you.
So what you've just seen is a completely different accounting staff experience, where we are leveraging a totally different operating model. You as the user can specify the different kinds of conditions that you want a system to track in the form of these natural language prompts. And the system will automatically monitor the conditions. And when it actually happens, there's an agentic experience to guide you through exactly what the supporting materials so you can actually discover and explain what's going on without having to reach out to a lot of different operations. Now, clearly, the more that you deploy on Fusion, in the example that Alex showed earlier, the information was coming from procurement, contracts, like the RPO example, kind of revenue management, subscription, CPQ, and so on. We leverage the context of the data and try to interpret what actually might have caused the problem, explain to you, and then also let you actually drill down to confirm. And also kind of lets you actually do simple actions like creating adjustments or kind of sending a report to somebody else so other people can follow up on that. Now, with all the automation in financial operations, FP&A can now take advantage of all that rich, contextual, real-time data to drive more predictive capabilities and predictive insights to support the business. Now, with that, I'd like to invite Matt Bradley to come and talk about the next part.
Good? No. Okay, go. Good afternoon. There we go. I'm just making sure you're all still awake. Great. Not that Ronnie wasn't engaging. You know, he's my boss, so I got to be nice from that standpoint. So when we talk about FP&A, I think Ronnie summed this up at the start. The first challenge we have is access to the data. Can I get accurate, complete, and timely information in order to understand what's currently happening inside of the business, so then I can take that information and then project what may occur in the business. And right now we're spending way too much time gathering that information. We're spending too long looking backwards as to what has occurred, what could have occurred, as opposed to looking forward as to how we can drive the business on a more predictive kind of basis. The second challenge we then get into with predictions is that because the data is challenging on point number one, we never actually get to do a good job on the prediction side of that model. We tend to not have accurate data, we tend to have retrospective data, we tend to have static data and static forecasts. And what we want to do is be able to introduce a level of agility so you can project and forecast when you need to, when business condition changes. And then the third problem, which is really related to the first two problems, is that because it's hard to get the data and because it's also hard to do the predictions, we all do it ourselves in our own spreadsheet models and we don't share that information with anybody else. So it's extremely hard to do a collaborative decision-making process as we go forward. So what I want to do is give you a demonstration of our vision with respect to the planning process, leveraging an agentic experience. So as you'll see when you first come into the system, you see it's very, very similar to what Alex had put in place. Insight heavy, data driven from that particular standpoint. There's a couple of things I want to highlight with respect to these insights. These insights, as you see from the narrative, they're predictive, they're forward-looking insights, not necessarily backward-looking in what's currently occurring inside of the ledger. But we're already taking all the information from the Fusion store, and we're bringing all that across into the EPM context, the planning context. So you shall see if I look at the third metric, we're actually pulling in information about margin pressure from our configurator tool. So we'll be able to look across the entire schema that is Fusion, that entire operation on financial data store, and leverage all that information to pull together insights that are important and appropriate for finance to take decisions on. So what I want to do is just delve into this first insight. And again, we've got a standard conversational style interface. This is fundamentally looking at cash projections, and we can see, looking further out, that our underlying model, which is a machine learning model, has indicated that based on the conditions that we know and understand, we're going to run out of cash in a specific area at some point in time in the future. Now, what the model can do is actually tell me what are the most important factors in that model. So we're going through full explainability so we can understand how that prediction was derived, which is important of establishing trust that it's actually doing the most appropriate thing. But I've been using this model for a while, and I know it's been fairly accurate. So what I really want to do is actually go straight in and talk about what's occurring and what's happening, establish a reporting pack, because we've got a meeting coming up next week with the executives, and we want to discuss this specific problem. And rather than me trying to solve it right now, we're going to solve it next week with the execs so they can make an appropriate decision. So what I've done is I've asked it to generate a narrative. What I want to do then is take that narrative and add it into the reporting package, but add a little visualization. I can now see quickly what that would look like. So we've generated the report. So again, as you've seen in the ledger agent, one tool doing all of this activity, pulling together the information driven from the insights, and doing it much more quickly and effectively than before. So once I've done that, because I'm a collaborative kind of guy, I want to share that with the treasurer so that he's not surprised when he shows up in the meeting next week when we're going to have this conversation. Okay? So if I go back out to the top, you'll see that we've completed that particular insight. And now I can move forward with the second insight, which is fundamentally more interesting to me. I need to take care of this quarterly revenue. As you see from the screen, we're about halfway through the quarter. So there is some time for me to make some changes to the plan in order to impact the end of the quarter. And what we're seeing is there's a revenue drop that's coming in through. And again, we'll ask the system to expand on this and understand a little bit more. Now we're bringing in booking information, sales information, as well as financial style information. And as you can see, we've got a projected variance of around 50 million, a drop. And that drop has been explained through the narrative. It's due to a shipping issue that we've got some delays in our shipment, so we're not getting product to customers soon enough. So again, I can ask the model to explain how it arrived at this, but we're going to go straight ahead to tell me what's happening in Europe and tell me what those issues are. So now we're talking to our supply chain and bringing in some supply chain information. So as you can see from supply chain, I'm getting information like what's the root cause. I'm also getting information in terms of what are the potential mitigating strategies and the cost of that mitigation. So I could use a different shipper, a different supplier. I could expedite the shipping by paying a little bit extra and getting it on priority delivery and moving forward from that standpoint. And as you can see, we're basically at that point of Q4, and we're getting 3 deals slipping into the next fiscal. So I want to see what we can do in order to pull it into this fiscal. So I'm going to ask a fairly simple question and create a what if and a forecast around that particular piece. So now I'm interacting with the planning application, establishing a new scenario and a new way of looking at this particular information, because I want to look at it on a much more holistic basis, because the cost of the mitigation is somewhat material. And as you can see, it's generated me a standard financial outlook. It's showing me that, yes, we could obviously drag that revenue into this quarter. It will cost us some money. But the good news is we've actually seen an expansion of the gross margin level of 160 basis points because of this. So from a financial standpoint, it seems to make sense that we should go ahead and do this mitigation. But because I am the collaborative guy that I am, I want to create a visualization and bring in my partners on the operational side of the business. I want to make sure that both supply chain and the EMEA sales team are comfortable with this. And as you can see, we get a nice visualization of the waterfall in terms of the before, after, what the cost would be in order to generate that margin. And we've got some details in terms of what the products that we had the shipping issues with. So again, doing that collaboration, I can now engage with sales, share this information with them, and now we can work together in terms of executing that new plan and executing that scenario. So this is an example that Ronnie talked about of connected action. And so what we want to do is then bring Ronnie back on stage, and he'll talk about connected action in a much broader context with our B2B initiatives.
All right. Thank you, Matt. So Planning Agent is basically the new experience for the FP&A guys, leveraging the rich data that we actually produce from the operational environment and be able to actually use just the agentic experience as well as the machine learning model to generate basically all the insights. So kind of you can actually take these insights and collaborate with your business stakeholders to make sure that you take advantage of the situation or course correct timely. Next, Oracle B2B. For those of you who have been paying attention to Oracle's announcements in the last couple of years, you probably have heard about this Oracle B2B program. The basic idea there is we have selectively partnered with a number of largest service providers in the world, big banks, credit card companies, logistics companies, digital service companies. They also happen to run the back office on Fusion. So the idea is when we partner with them, we want to embed their core services from these service providers directly in Fusion, such that kind of our joint customers will be able to activate their services with a simple turnkey solution. Everything is connected. You don't need actually heavy IT to do that. But in addition to that, we have added a number of other value-added services that prove to be kind of extremely difficult for people to do it themselves. Now, I'm happy to report that after 2 years or so, we have partnered with a number of these top service providers, but we have also expanded into many different new services. For example, in banking, we have expanded into virtual credit cards, supply chain financing, bank account validation, supplier bank account validation, and so on. And we also have hundreds and hundreds of customers who have deployed these solutions during the implementation of Fusion, as well as kind of as they continue to grow the businesses. They are leveraging these services for different purposes. Now, when you actually get to payments, when you look at kind of like the other side of the payables functions today, most of kind of the payables folks are essentially paying their supplier payments just based on term date, out of kind of like their cash, checks, and ACH type mechanisms, so directly paying off your bank accounts. They're not able to actually really leverage their capital situations effectively. They're not looking at, if you have excess cash, can I actually negotiate a different discount with a different term date that I pay them early, or can I leveraging the credit line that I have with credit cards or with supply chain financing? Many times, kind of even they wanted to do that, the IT effort to bring all of these capabilities together to integrate with your ERP is horrendous. So what you're going to see next is a brand new payments agent where that's actually going to solve a lot of these problems together in one agentic experience. So with that, I'd like to actually introduce Catherine Yu and Sam to come and actually show us the payments agent.
It's wonderful to be here. I'm Catherine Yu with ERP Application Development Team. With me here today, Sam Yen, Global Head of Enterprise Application Solutions for JPMorgan Chase. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much.
So for the demo, I will play the role of AP Payment Analyst, while Sam will represent the bank. So we start with the AP portion. So it's Q4, Treasury directs payables to keep payments under 83 million for the remainder of the year. Previously, this required hours of data gathering reporting. Now, with Payments Agent, I can act immediately. In seconds, Payments Agent analyzes transactions through using large language model, pulling and summarizing information by supplier, date, terms, methods, and amount. More importantly, AI understands the business context that paying suppliers through standard terms and through traditional payment methods on check, ACH, and EFT means missed business opportunities to extend payment terms and leverage credit and financing. Diving deeper into the data, that agent now identifies 155 suppliers that may be suitable for supply chain finance or virtual card programs already active in Fusion. Now, as you could see, the working capital benefit could be quite significant in hundreds of millions. For the virtual card analysis, AI identifies suppliers with spend less than $10 million typically who may want to receive funds faster by accepting cards. I, as a customer, could also earn rebates on card charges, and very similar to our consumer credit card reward program we all enjoy. Plus, I gain a flow of 45 to 60 days, further meeting the cash flow objective. Payments Agent operates natively in Oracle Fusion. Now, when it's integrated with B2B banking partner like JPMorgan, it creates and adds a connected experience for your finance operation and your bank. JP Morgan and Oracle, we enable agent-to-agent experience, as you could see here, while keeping human in the loop. Now, AI prompts for internal approval before sending supplier data over to the bank for bank to start recruiting suppliers and onboarding them. Now, JP Morgan agent will receive that data, sends a confirmation back to Oracle, closing the loop. So now I'll hand over to Sam to show how AI works inside the bank to scale these programs for mutual customers.
Great. Well, thank you, Catherine, and thank you for inviting us onto the stage here. I'm actually going to play two roles at JP Morgan in supplier services. First, as a supplier recruiter. We offer at JP Morgan a unique service to help recruit suppliers on behalf of our clients to participate in JP Morgan's leading supply chain finance program and also the largest bank virtual card network. So I see that Applied Robotics has submitted a new supplier request. Now, with Oracle's new agentic capabilities, clicking on the tile triggers communications between the Oracle agent and the JP Morgan agent that securely exchanges supplier information and starts assessing program eligibility automatically. Look, immediately I see 23 suppliers are already part of the JP Morgan virtual card network. For the other 68 suppliers, I could ask our JP Morgan agent to kick off the recruiting process. This helps streamline a tedious and manual process. I could also choose to automatically notify Applied Robotics as new suppliers come on board. We see the JP Morgan agent getting to work, first sharing the 23 matching suppliers so that the Oracle agent could help Applied Robotics update their vendor payment preferences. OK, so let's jump ahead. A week later, I'm wearing a different hat now. I am now a customer success representative, and I come back to check on the progress. Because of the out-of-the-box integration into Oracle Fusion by leveraging JP Morgan's virtual card network, we see that Applied Robotics is already up and running with virtual card payments. And I could even check into the details of the last virtual card transaction, showing the end-to-end payment process. Look, over time, the agent-supported recruitment process will enroll even more suppliers, generating even more rebates for accounts payables, and helping suppliers with more optionality for faster funds. This payment agent integration shows the potential for streamlining processes and optimizing working capital for buyers and sellers, for buyers and suppliers alike. So if you have any more questions, come to our booth and learn about this great partnership that we have with Oracle Fusion.
And we have a session tomorrow.
Absolutely.
At 1 p.m. So back to you, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
So what you have just seen is enabled by a few different factors. First, the automation and invoice processing. So we're able to up-value all the AP staff to focus on this more value-added activity to manage the capital, in particular, supplier payments. It also actually leverages a lot of the predictive cash forecasting capability from FP&A. And of course, the last piece that's ingredient into this is our partnership with the banks to automate the entire end-to-end process. You also see in here, that's the first example that we are doing an agent-to-agent automation. The complexity in here is not just actually the buyers, the payables organization having to pay that, but it has to integrate with their own bank, the credit card company sometimes, and also actually the recruiting process, ultimately the execution of the payment into the supplier's bank account. A lot of different parties involved. And we are able to actually bring all that complexity in a simple agentic flow. And of course, ultimately, it's going to bring the value by helping the payables organization to be more proactive, managing the supplier payment working capital. Now, with that said, this is all the agents that we're planning. So about 50 agents altogether. You're going to see new agent capabilities to come into play. You'll be able to enable and turn them on, and it's starting to realize the benefit of that. There's nothing else to buy. You just need to continue to to run your fusion processes and kind of basically be able to turn on and execute these functions and kind of basically getting the benefit out of that. Now, what we've shown today is 4 big payment, ledger, planning, as well as kind of the payables agents. But in addition to that, there are other areas in ERP and EPM, for example, kind of in AR with cash processing. In EPM, we have reconciliation. We got actually profitability, cost management, and some in PPM as well. If you're interested in seeing any of these agents and demos, you can go to the respective sessions later on in the different tracks and be able to get into the details of those. Now, we actually are delivering all of these agents as embedded capabilities out of the box. Now, clearly, we look at how we transform a particular function with agentic experience, creating the whole agentic experience with the supporting agents to carry out very complex activities. We do actually believe that our customers should be able to benefit on all of these innovations without being an AI expert, without actually have to tinker with a lot of kind of all the infrastructure and AI models yourself. But at the same time, kind of we have also seen a lot of our partners and our customers starting to experiment different smaller agentic examples where kind of they can use our AI Agent Studio platform to create your own little agents to complement our broader solutions in place. Now, clearly, Oracle is very blessed because kind of we have a world-class Oracle Cloud infrastructure that also hosts a lot of top-class large language models in the world, where kind of all that infrastructure, all that scalability and powerful compute is the basis of how we actually service all these agentic capabilities to our Fusion SaaS apps customers. So with all of that, there's actually a lot of future-proofing that actually you can expect. As kind of basically technology continues to evolve, you are going to expect that Oracle will continue to leverage the latest and greatest large language models and technology, so you will be sure that your AI use cases are going to be supported by the latest and greatest.
So all that technology is great, but is it giving me the right answer? And that's where the transparency comes in. We'll be able to look behind the covers and see exactly how the algorithms are actually working and explain them to you in terms of we went this way because of these conditions, and this is the reason why the response was what the response was. It's extremely important to know and understand that so you can establish trust in terms of the machine is doing the most appropriate thing with the appropriate context that you've given it. The second thing you also need is reliability. So as we do these updates and we change the large language model to the new incarnation of another version of that large language model, is the response coming from that the same as what the response was with the previous version? And when you get to test this, it's a little bit more complicated than what we normally test in a financial context. In a financial context are these numbers the same as what they were before? And it's somewhat absolute. In large language models, you're actually testing the semantic. Does this mean the exact same as what it meant before? It may be a completely different sentence, a completely different narrative, but it means the exact same thing. So the nature and style of testing becomes a little bit more complicated with large language models. In addition to the understanding how the models work, is also respecting the confidentiality of the information. The information, when it runs inside of the Oracle system, does not leave the Oracle infrastructure. It stays inside of Oracle. It's not been shared with anybody else. Your information has not been shared or used without your permission to train and advance any other algorithms except those that you've given it permission to do. When you execute the particular models and agents themselves, they will have a role. They will have a security profile that matches what you want it to adhere to. So you've got confidentiality concerns have been removed because you're operating directly against the core embedded ERP system and Fusion systems. So all these are trying to address and ensure that you have this in place, that it really makes sense to move forward with the embedded technology. Over the last couple of years, this has been our strategy of AI-driven finance. And it's been broken into 3 main components. First and foremost, a touchless experience. And as you're seeing today through the agentic experience, this is what we're talking about. We want to elevate up from just making API calls and automating at that level, adding in reasoning so the machine can take the appropriate action based upon the inputs and outputs that it's got. So we're elevating this to true touchless, true decision-making driven automation and autonomous activity from the agentic experience. The second piece that we've talked about quite a lot is this insight-driven, data-driven kind of approach, be it at the transactional level as well as the multidimensional FP&A style level. So you can know and understand and have the data talk to you and explain what's occurring inside of your business and uncover new insights from that perspective, and then leverage that data for the forward-looking predictive kind of capabilities. And the last piece is this connected tissue, being able to connect inside the organization. And as you've seen with our partnerships within both the financial services, but also with logistics and other technical partnerships, to extend beyond that to include your trading partners, your service providers, and your customers as part and parcel of that overall experience. It is our recommendation, strong recommendation, that if you have not started your Fusion journey, start your journey today. While we will support Applications Unlimited, eBusiness Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edward, Hyperion, these agentic experiences are not coming to those solutions. The gap has now widened significantly between the capabilities that we have in the cloud vis-a-vis what's available in the on-premise, is the reason why we're encouraging you to start that journey and move forward with Fusion as soon as you can and what's possible, and limit your investments both in capital, both human and in finance, with your on-premise applications today, and move to the cloud. You may be tempted to do a bolt-on, but as you've seen from the previous slides, the foundations of AI make that extremely difficult and hard. You're going to be moving data outside of a schema into another schema. You're going to have to teach AI what that schema is. You're going to have to look at the processes that you have in place and standardize those so that the data has not been overly factored or overly weighted to one performance versus another. You're going to have to deal with security. You're going to have to deal with the testing. You're going to have to deal with updates and upgrades and all of that complexity. And frankly, you're going to be a customer of one. You're the only customer in the world who will have that solution. When you actually take advantage of Fusion SaaS, you're part of a much, much broader ecosystem. And we'll be able to leverage that wisdom that we have across the entire fleet in order to improve the processes for everybody that's in place. So we would encourage you to move to Fusion and move to Fusion SaaS as soon as you can. If you're not ready for a full transformation, our recommendation is to start with a consolidated general ledger and to start with FP&A and get that up and running, and then work your way back to the sub-ledgers and then to the operational ERP. Get some value, get started, and take advantage of it. For those who are on Fusion, we'd encourage you to really embrace this agentic experience. Look at what we can do and look at how it can improve and change your operating models. Really question what you're doing in shared services, for payables, for management reporting, for all of those kinds of services that you apply people to the problem, and how you can apply an agentic experience to that particular solution and advance that forward. We are encouraging you to, as we say, unleash your innovation. Finance, frankly, is a bit of a Greek tragedy. We're all Sisyphus. By the time we push the rock up the hill, it rolls back down again, and we're starting doing the same activity. We've just finished one close, and what are we doing? We're starting the next close. We want to stop that particular grind. We want to take you, who are the most important people in your organization, and have you do meaningful things. And that is by unleashing this innovation, by looking at your supplier mix and bringing more into it, leveraging the document I/O and the onboarding capabilities. So you can then introduce competitive pressure inside of that particular arena. To really look at your individuals who are doing non-value add data collection and apply them in a much more advanced fashion in terms of looking at your payables, et cetera, et cetera. But also noted, as Ronnie pointed out, we're doing updates on a quarterly cadence. There's new things coming in through. Get used to doing the innovation. Get used to looking out and seeing what's occurring and what's happening, and embrace it, unleash it, and really take advantage of the innovations that we put in place. As Ronnie mentioned, if you want more details, you're going to have to hightail it out of here fairly quickly to get to the ERP session at 4:15. Tomorrow morning, 8 to 8 o'clock, we've got a detailed session on planning. And then the third one, which I encourage you all to go to, which Rodney will be back on stage again, so you get a repeat performance of Rodney. But in that context, he's going to be speaking about how customers are adopting this. What is the right way to do this? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And discussions around that particular arena. So I would encourage everybody to get to that session.
So with that, the speed of innovation in the finance, in the Fusion space is unprecedented. We double down on all the AI and agentic experiences. What you're seeing today, a year later, you're going to see a lot more agentic experiences across many more functions. So with that, I'd like to actually thank everybody for joining our session today, and hoping we're going to look into discussing with more and more customers sometime this week. Thank you.
Thank you.